Thank you. Well, before I begin my reading, I'd like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Jennifer Gow and the St. John's United Church Book Club for inviting me to speak this evening. It really is a true pleasure and privilege to share my work with you. I also want to express my gratitude to Miss Barb Rousseau, who tirelessly and enthusiastically took on the role of publicist. She scurried around town distributing flyers, talking to the Grenville Times, posting online notices on various Kemptville and North Grenville pages, and all for the meager price of $0. Barb, you are hired permanently. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, hiding way up there, manning the camera and the sound, special thanks to my tech-savvy husband extraordinaire, Brad, because while I have the easy task of writing, he takes on the trying tasks of being a listening ear, a sounding board, critic, editor, and publisher. Stories are meant to be read, enjoyed, savored, critiqued, reviewed, and discussed. And that's where you all come in. So thank you all very, very much for being here, because what I do would mean nothing without you reading it. So whether you enjoy solving mysteries on the Orient Express, being present at Anne Boleyn's beheading, or losing yourself in a guilty pleasure of a deliciously decadent romance, I hope the journey we're about to embark on captivates your imagination and transports you to another time and place. Stories inspire, they challenge, inform, and occasionally alter our perspective on the world, making us more empathetic as we learn to walk in a character's shoes. Mere words can make our hearts leap into our throats, double us over with laughter, or bring us to tears. They whisk us away on grand adventures across the globe, under the sea, and even beyond the stars. Can't afford a vacation? Read a book. They introduce us to a host of complex characters, some of whom stay with us for a lifetime. Atticus Finch, Jane Eyre, Rhett Butler, Don Quixote de la Mancha, Jo March, Jean Valjean, and countless others. When I finished reading Bernard Cornwell's Arthur trilogy, The Warlord Chronicles, I cried, knowing my journey with the protagonist Durfel had come to an end. I'm sure you've all been there. Between the Woven Spaces is a novel that begins in the present day with my protagonist, Lilith, reflecting on her life. She then takes us to 1950s Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So this heat we're feeling here today, I'm going to put you right in that spot. It is a world that is marked by exquisite beauty, culture, and customs, yet mired in deep-seated prejudice. She'll describe her home, Bride's Hill, first through her mother's eyes, hinting at their complicated and strained relationship, and then allow us a glimpse through her own perspective. She'll allude to being a daddy's girl and a sister to Tristan. We'll then skip ahead in the story where we'll all be interlopers on a date between Lilith and her beau, Austin. Now, it can be challenging to select readings that don't reveal the storyline while capturing and piquing the reader's curiosity. But I hope you'll agree that I've achieved this balance. So, as we immerse ourselves into Lilith Fitzhugh's world, I invite you to sit back, relax, and become clandestine observers of the experiences and events that shaped her life. Enjoy the reading. I'll be dead soon, and the burdensome guilt that's weighed on me these 9 decades persists in waves, subsiding, then resurfacing in a less impeachable state, more like a cumbersome numbness. I lost myself in the labyrinth of heartache for eons, seeking to decipher the intricate dance of fate and free will. Was it all preordained or shaped by choice? And was it in the moments that I held on or let go? Despite this long journey, the answers elude me. In the beginning, I considered myself a demon child, indicting myself with a guilty verdict and pronouncing upon myself a sentence of eternal misery. But judging is effortless. Even the slow-witted can distinguish night from day. But what of the inhabitants of the gray in-between places that compel us to squint? Don't we deserve mercy and justice? I've endured the unendurable, bore the unbearable. And when the heartaches and devastation of love and loss tore me apart, I pleaded with God to give me shaken baby syndrome, to fracture my brain-bruised skull, rendering me harmless or extinct. I prayed incessantly for my beating heart to cease. But the Almighty did not comply. It beat on, indifferent to whether I was an unholy girl or an angel. Lub-doop, lub-doop, lub-doop. Some days I curled up in a ball, hid my face from the sun, gathered my memories to my bosom and wept. Well, I believe I'm alive because the Creator Himself can't absolve me of my sins. And when I pass from this shell of bone and wrinkle, the irregular bits might float in a godless void, entirely unsalvageable. Even the Prince of Darkness may reject my soul, leaving me in perpetual remorse and repentance for all eternity. Nevertheless, I am incapable of discerning what sort of person I am or have been. All I can do is tell my story. My name is Lilith, and it means of the night. Now, I was not privy to whether that referred to the time of my conception and birth or had a more ominous meaning. I know my namesake had a miserable and demonized existence. You see, Lilith was Adam's first wife, but not a match made in heaven. They fought constantly as he demanded dominance during lovemaking, and Lil didn't relish being subservient. Well, weary of quarreling, she flew into the air, abandoning her sacred role. And 3 angels failed to bring her to heel. She persisted in copulating with sleeping men. This made God very unhappy. So, you may wonder why my mother saddled me with a name that carries the implication of being a temptress who carried out sexual misdeeds when most females born in my time were Mary, Betty, or Ruth. Lilith, she said, you are not like other girls. Well, I pondered how an individual with the correct body parts in their proper position could be different. And did possessing that information predetermine me to color outside the lines? Was this revelation a prophecy? You may be left wondering what happened to Lilith. Well, after her defiant departure from Eden, she transformed into a supernatural being of seduction. Maybe Mama was to blame. A proclaimed descendant of Anne Wynne Dew, Adrian Aylwin Bryn Mawr was born on May 15, 1908, in the seaside village of Brecon, Wales. Now, Welsh nobility had fallen out of vogue by the 1100s, but my mother still imagined herself an aristocrat. And when I inquired about the source of her rather large dowry, she rebuked me for broaching an indelicate topic. Despite impresarios tempted her to perform because of her vocal acuity, she asserted no woman should behave as a grease-painted hussy. So she employed her musical prowess and crooned soothing lullabies to ease my brother and me into sleep, and up-tempo numbers to rouse us from slumber. But her voice had a queer phonology. It was a jumble of Welsh and Italian, French, and German, although she vehemently denied gaining a southern twang. And it vexed her to no end that I did not have an ear for languages, English included. Dismayed by my palpable drawl, which I gained through no fault of my own, being born and raised in Alabama, she exclaimed, "You have a slow, lazy tongue, Lilith, and I will not tolerate the dropping of G's." "But that's how everyone talks, Mama." "You are not everyone. You are a Bryn Mawr. Act like it." Well, Mother's goal was to foster higher learning in my brother and myself. And she decided that this couldn't be accomplished in the one-room schoolhouse where 6 grades taught concurrently shared a space the size of a sardine can. But I enjoyed being homeschooled, as relentless teasing by my peers caused me misery. "Are you coming or going, Lily Pants?" Followed by the ever-popular chorus of "Snooty Pants, Snooty Pants." Well, I disregarded most bobs thrown in my direction, but at infrequent times when I felt particularly picked on, I sought solace in the comforting arms of my father. "What can't we move, Daddy? It's the only way you'll get rid of my drone." "Oh, it doesn't matter where you go. Being Southern's in your blood. You belong here, baby girl. You're collard greens and candied yams." "But I don't want to be a candied yam," I pouted. He laughed and gathered me onto his lap. "I mean, you are Southern through and through, Lily Flower." "Well, she better stop complaining then." "I heard that, Lilith Fitzhugh." "Sorry, Mama." I swear that woman had the ears of a wax moth. But at a mere 5'2", Mother possessed an imposing presence. It may have been her breeding or how she answered questions with faultless authority, spoke the mysterious Gaelic tongue, or planted petunias. She seemed omniscient, and I believed she was more competent than God. Being more authoritative than a general, she distanced herself from the crowd, and she expected me to do the same and follow in her very narrow footsteps. According to her, conforming particularly to Southern life was the ultimate sin. She had the uncanny ability to inhabit a space within herself, like a reptile in shell, only sticking her neck out for Daddy. It seemed he was the turtle whisperer. But she was devoted to Daddy. Not only had she agreed to live in a foreign and unappealing culture, she also took up residence in what she called the murky mansion. Encompassed by kudzu and other dark hanging things, she often lamented that even bows refused to hold their heads up here. And in her opinion, our neglected antebellum plantation, which father purchased for a steal, his story, wasn't worth the money required to restore it. And it did not please her to discover that William White Bibb, slave owner, United States congressional representative, and state's first governor, had been the earlier host. Upon hearing his horse had thrown him, she said a broken neck was the only thing that could have shut him up. Well, naturally, the distasteful banter shared within our cloistered walls was to remain there. But unlike Mama, I loved Bride's Hill. Surrounded by a vibrant floral landscape, it epitomized grace and beauty. Colossal pillars flanked the entrance, and Daddy constructed a porch around the front with alabaster pickets. Mama, of course, hating the look, but not wanting to hurt her beloved's feelings, hid it with a plethora of violet hydrangeas. And 2 fragrant magnolias stood to the left and right of the whitewashed brick, while nearby a pink dogwood bloomed in sharp contrast to the otherwise emerald backdrop. After importing a Welsh fanlight, Daddy had it positioned above the transom, allowing a wealth of light into the front hallway. Oh, and the main floor had an immense central hall traversed by a reverse flight stairway rising to the half-story above, separating several quarters. The house also hosted a brick cooking space near the back, fronting the riverwalk alongside the Black Warrior River. A secluded corner nook remained my secret refuge. It featured a yellow checkered window bench beneath a grand crepe myrtle that sheltered my dollies from the blistering summer rays. And Tuscaloosa County boasted neighbors F. Scott Fitzgerald and his wife Zelda, and the actress Tallulah Bankhead, none of which impressed Mama a lick. But despite seeing the Fitzgeralds in town occasionally, I had explicit instructions not to address them, as my mother assertively implied they were drunkards and floozies respectively, and I should keep my distance. And we were shunned by our neighbors, by the locals, for being heathens and unsoutherly and nouveau riche, all except for my brother Tristan, who slid through Southern society like a greased string through a goose. With his sterling hair and gray eyes, every girl within a 50-mile radius was madly in love with him. And unlike me, he was not held to the Bryn Mawr standard of rules and etiquette. He was a top-notch athlete, and he aspired to go to college and play football with the famous Crimson Tide. But as popular as he was, even he couldn't mitigate the fact that a family comprising a foreign Welsh woman, an uppity northerner, and a girl named Lilith could ever fit in. I'd almost forgotten what splendid company he was. Funny, irreverent, confident, brilliant, and easy as a Sunday morning. I grew more infatuated with each passing minute and found myself spellbound. We indulged in deliciously stimulating conversation until a commotion at the entrance interrupted our discourse. I turned to see a stranger running towards me, halting mere inches from my face and reeking a hooch. I believe you have the wrong. His fist collided with the table, making me jump. His words were laced with anger and resentment, and the bitterness in his voice equaled the vile stench of moonshine. Well, Austin was on his feet. Lilith, do you know this man? I stammered, my heart racing. I do not. Don't know me, huh? Well, I recognize you, Missy. You're the lying Jezebel that betrayed my son. Now, at full attention, Austin tried to insert himself between me and the stranger. You are disturbing the patron, sir. I strongly urge you to move on. Oh, you better watch this one, he slurred. She's a tease is what she is. He squinted, seemingly bothered by the brightness of the lights. You ruined him. He could have been somebody important if you hadn't got your hooks in him. I have no idea who or what you're talking about, sir. I'm talking about my son. He spat, expelling tobacco spittle. You playing dumb, Miss High and Mighty? You made him a laughing stock. He had a future before he met you. He hissed, a voice, a threatening whisper. Now, he's a nobody. That's enough. I'll leave or I'll call the police. Go ahead. She'll be dead before they get here. At the pop, panicked patrons stampeded through the door because he had fired a shot in the ceiling. And in the commotion, Austin ducked away to summon help. The man's hand trembled from what I assumed was an alcoholic palsy, causing the barrel of the gun to shimmy. And struggling to remain calm and knowing he'd accept nothing in the way of an apology otherwise, I remained mute. But he seethed, his anger escalating. I warned him you'd ruin everything. It's your fault. All of it, he wailed. You made me punish him. But I had to teach him a lesson. I had to. He whimpered, his words trailing away. He ran his sleeve across his face, then ramped up once more. Your daddy should have raised you better. You're nothing but a dirty floozy. Well, my heart hammered as I focused on the weighty metal and the ribbon of sweat skirting his hairline. You'll pay for what you've done, just like my son paid. Suddenly, the flashing lights of police cruisers lit the scene, and the growing wail of sirens became more audible. But my eyes stayed fixed on the man whose finger remained on the trigger. And each millimeter brought him closer to the decisive moment when the shot would echo through the air. Put down the gun, Walter. There's no way out, even if you shoot her. I did not find that command comforting, and my heart was 2 beats from catapulting from my chest. Walter, put it down. A concussive bang reverberated through my brain. I opened my eyes. Plunk, plunk, plunk. Droplets trickled from the fragments of a shattered pitcher above, cutting like Chinese water torture. Where was I? My limbs, heavy as lead, rendered me immobile, and I lay amidst shards of glass, greasy French fries, and overturned chairs. And faces clamored all around me, etched with concern. Oh, and I cut my ears if touching it would dispel the lingering echo of the gunshot. And my hand came away wet and red. Can you hear me? I looked in the direction of the sound to process the words, and the voices chirped in my ears like a robin's wail. Ma'am, are you able to stand? Lilith, the paramedics want to examine you. I nodded, allowing their hands to move over my body like a cop pat down. Finger up and down, and left and right, and lighten the eyes and check the pulse. Miss, you have a concussion. He turned to Austin. She must have hit the table on her way down. You might experience ringing in your ears for a few days, but other than that, you're okay. I stared blankly. You are one lucky lady, he stated. Your guardian angel sure was on her toes today. But I didn't feel lucky. God declined to claim me yet again.